When the Millionaire's cleaning lady saved his daughter, what happened next will shock you. In the glitzy world of high society, where diamonds sparkled and fortunes blazed like wildfire, one ordinary woman stood on the threshold of a life-changing event. The sun had barely risen over the sprawling mansion of millionaire Ben Thompson, a man feared by many, adored by few. Today, that same man would learn that heroes come in the most unexpected forms. The cleaning lady, a seemingly inconspicuous figure named Maria, stepped inside, her heart racing like a runaway train. What she didn't know was that a storm was brewing, one that would thrust her into the center of an unimaginable drama. As Maria dusted the ornate chandeliers, a chilling scream pierced the air. It was Lily, Ben's only daughter, teetering dangerously close to the edge of the grand balcony. The wild wind tugged at her hair like a banshee, and in that moment, time seemed to freeze. Panic gripped Maria's chest. A hard lump formed in her throat as she rushed forward. Every detail felt surreal, the way the soft morning light caught the droplets of sweat on her brow, the sweet scent of lavender she wore, and the rush of adrenaline flooding her veins. Lily's wide eyes sparkled with terror, dancing between life and death. "Maria! Help!" shouted Lily, her voice desperately slicing through the stillness. The world outside blurred, sounds muted to a haunting echo, as Maria raced up the spiraled stairs. Lily wasn't just another job, she had a spark, a light that shone brighter than her rich surroundings. But what truly gripped Maria was the absolute certainty that she was the only one who could save her. What would it take to rescue this girl her father adored yet neglected? She was just a cleaning lady against a backdrop of wealth. The scene unfolded like a movie, the stakes sky high. The seconds stretched into eternity as she reached the terrace, where the wind howled, tossing her between despair and hope. Would she dare to reach for a girl in freefall? In a split second, all doubts vanished. Maria lunged forward, arms outstretched, ready to defy everything she ever knew about wealth and privilege. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With her heart pounding, Maria felt the dizzying rush of destiny. Could she really pull it off? The weight of the moment bore down on her, a suffocating cloak that threatened to swallow her whole. But in that tense silence, was it fear or determination that coursed through her veins? The crowd below held its collective breath, eyes wide in horror. She could sense their judgment, their disbelief twisted into whispers. Then came that pivotal moment. Just as hope flickered like a candle, Lily slipped, gripped by the monstrous hand of gravity. Would Maria's desperate grasp be enough? The world slowed as Maria stretched her fingers closer, each heartbeat echoing in her ears like thunder. This was no ordinary rescue, something far greater loomed just beyond their grasp. What happened next would leave them all breathless. An unseen force, a hidden truth that spun a web of secrets, waiting impatiently to be unveiled. Maria's fingers grazed Lily's wrist, a fleeting touch against frailty as the pull of the earth seemed to scream at them. Time stretched like an elastic band, snapping back with a force that could shatter glass. For an instant, Maria felt the warmth of life met by the chill of impending doom. She gripped tightly, feeling the girl's pulse thrumming wildly beneath her touch. "Hold on. I've got you," Maria shouted, her voice emerging from her lungs with a raw power she didn't know she possessed. Lily's eyes widened in disbelief, as if she couldn't comprehend that help had arrived in the most unexpected form. The crowd below erupted into chaos, gasps intertwining with screams, a desperate chorus of fear. Maria could hear some of their whispers. They were laced with skepticism and doubt, yet they faded into a distant hum as she focused solely on the fragile girl in front of her. With a fierce determination that flooded her with strength, she tightened her grip and heaved. But the wind lashed at them like an angry beast, threatening to steal any chance of survival. Just a little bit more, Lily. Kick your feet. Moments dragged on like a slow-motion heartbeat, each second a lifetime. With one final, desperate tug, Maria felt her fingers slide against slick skin, just as another wild gust threatened to yank Lily away. No. I want to let you go. Finally, as if the universe had witnessed the unwavering spirit of this cleaning lady, Lily's small frame rocketed upward, their hands locked in an unbreakable grip. Maria pulled with every ounce of strength coursing through her body, and in a surge of resilience, both of them toppled to the safety of the terrace floor. They landed soundlessly, breathless and panting. For a moment, all the world around them vanished, it was just the two of them, surviving against the odds. As Maria pulled away, she met Lily's wide, terrified gaze. Relief washed over them like a tidal wave, but it was quickly overshadowed by the thundering voice of Ben Thompson erupting in disbelief behind them. "What have you done?" he shouted, his fury palpable, eyes flickering between the two women as if they were pieces on an elaborate chessboard he didn't know how to play. "Dad! Maria saved me!" Lily gasped, her voice trembling but resolute. The air thickened with tension, a drumroll of unspoken accusations. Ben's expression twisted, anger and confusion battling for supremacy. Maria's heart raced as she scrambled away from the edge of that unrelenting cliff called danger, yet the ramifications of her actions were only beginning to unfold. Would she be viewed as a hero or a threat? In that charged moment, it hit Maria like a jolt. She was no longer just the cleaning lady, she had crossed an invisible line into a different world, a world of power, privilege, and the burdens that came with it. But what had she actually unleashed? The crowd murmured, a mix of shock and awe, and just behind them, that churning storm of expectations and judgments brewed. It was as if the mansion itself leaned in, eager to hear the next chapter. What had begun as a desperate act would spiral into something much darker, because right then, amidst the aftermath of salvation, Maria had no idea that other secrets lurked just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. Back inside the mansion, whispers of an untold truth hovered like a shadow, a reality that could change everything for both women forever. What was Ben hiding? And how far would he go to protect his family's reputation? The stakes had risen like the sun, casting long shadows on the choices yet to come. As Maria stood, still breathing heavily and feeling the weight of the world shift along with her reality, she couldn't shake the gnawing feeling in her gut. There was more to this story, and she was about to dive headfirst into a world of secrets. The air was thick, palpable with tension. Every gaze in the crowd bore into Maria as if she were an intruder, a thief who had stolen a moment out of time, or worse yet, a sorceress conjuring chaos. Voices buzzed like angry bees, the mix of admiration and disbelief tantalizingly close to disaster. "Stay back." Ben's voice cracked like a whip, slicing through the murmurs that drifted around them like smoke. "This woman, she has no place here. You think she is a hero?" Lily, still shaking, tried to step closer to Maria, her eyes darting between her father's fury and the woman who had saved her. "But, Dad, she saved my life. How can you not see that?" Some in the crowd began to side with Lily, but Ben's forceful demeanor held them at bay. His presence shouted authority, stifling the flickers of compassion that dared to rise. "Enough!" he bellowed, his words heavy with consequence. "You don't understand what you're asking for, Lily. This isn't a fairy tale." Maria felt her stomach twist painfully. She was no fairy tale character, no noble knight. She was a cleaner, someone who scrubbed floors and emptied trash. But somehow, that small act of courage had turned her into something more. Something that terrified her. "Please," Maria found her voice, trembling from the weight of Ben's glare. Didn't he mean to what?" he interrupted, stepping closer, his face contorting in a mixture of outrage and fear. "Put my daughter at risk? You think this ends here? You have no idea what's at stake." The crowd leaned in, the murmur rising like a tide, hungry for conflict. Maria's heart hammered in her chest. She couldn't let this unravel. Not now, not when everything had changed. I just did what I thought was right. She protested, desperation tinging her voice. And suddenly, like a flash of lightning across a dark sky, an unexpected figure emerged from the crowd. It was Mrs. Thompson, Ben's wife and Lily's mother, her presence suffused with a quiet intensity. She didn't speak at first, she just stood, eyes fixed on Maria. Ben, she said finally, her tone a mix of steel and softness. Maybe what Maria did it matters. Maybe she matters. The crowd fell silent, as if time had halted. Maria could feel everyone's attention drawn to Mrs. Thompson, the unyielding matriarch who wore her fury like a cloak. She doesn't belong to your world, but she's proven she has heart. Yet you stand here, desperate to keep them apart, like some kind of cage. With those words, the breath around them shifted, the tide of sentiment slowly beginning to turn. Maria felt a flicker of hope, but Ben's face twisted in defiance. You don't see it, do you, Amelia? This isn't just about us. There are things behind the scenes, connections, families who pay to keep this under wraps. Amelia stepped closer, her voice lowering as she leaned towards him. What are you hiding, Ben? What are you so terrified will come to light? A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Ben's expression froze, the brilliant light of anger fading, replaced by something darker. It was the face of a man caught in a snare, every muscle tensing as his secrets threatened to spill. Maria's heart raced. The stakes were rising. What had she unwittingly stumbled into? What truths lingered just beneath their polished surfaces? Don't think Maria is the problem, Ben. Maybe it's time to face what you've buried. Amelia's voice was steady, a clash against the storm brewing within her husband. With those words, a heavy silence hung in the air, illuminated by uncertainty and churning secrets. As all eyes turned back to Maria, she felt the weight of every soul searching for answers. In that moment, she knew she'd taken a step into the unknown, a step that would lead to revelations she couldn't begin to fathom. Would she become the scapegoat for their hidden sins? As the tension thickened, she braced herself. The truth was clawing its way to the surface, and she was its reluctant vessel in a game far greater than herself. What would happen when the illusions shattered? How far would Ben go to protect the empire he'd built on lies? 28 The air crackled, anticipation sparking like nerves on fire. And then, a voice rang out from the crowd, piercing through the lingering silence. Maria, you didn't just save Lily. You've awakened something in us all. We want the truth. Maria's breath hitched as the crowd's gaze shifted, the weight of their expectations suddenly too much to bear. Sensing a change of tide, her pulse raced. They were looking at her not just a cleaner anymore but a potential spark of something greater. Hope and fear danced in her chest, each pushing against the other. The realization crashed down like waves. Every word spoken now was a thread woven into a tapestry of truth that was about to unravel. Ben's eyes shot to the ground, his shoulders sagging ever so slightly. It was a moment of vulnerability that felt almost dangerous. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the storm to break. Listen to her. Chimed a voice from the back, a woman with wild hair who stepped forward, her eyes fierce with defiance. We're tired of living in shadows. It's time we knew what's really going on. Ben's anger ignited again, his stance suddenly rigid. Enough. He barked, but the authority in his voice faltered when he met the resolute gazes of the crowd. The illusion of control was crumbling, and he knew it. Why hide behind riches if the truth is so noble? Amelia challenged, stepping closer to him, her voice low yet fierce. If you want to protect our family, start by being honest. Stop treating Maria as a villain. Maria's heart thundered in her chest. This was bigger than the moment at the park, it was a reckoning. The clash between Ben and Amelia was no longer just about her, it was about the lives woven together in this tiny universe, held captive by secrets and lies. Clenching her fists, she took a step forward, her voice wavering but determined. If there's more to this, I want to know. I don't want to be wrapped up in a lie that could come crashing down on everyone. The confession tasted foreign yet liberating. A collective murmur surged through the crowd, heads nodding in agreement. Maria felt like the very ground beneath her was shifting. She looked up to see Ben's face, a fleeting flicker of dread crossing his features. For the first time, she felt a surge of power, standing amidst a deep-rooted conflict that surrounded them. You don't understand what you're asking for, he snapped, but the fight in his voice was dwindling, replaced by uncertainty. What is so terrible that you would stand here, tearing apart the very fabric of your family? Amelia pressed, her voice thick with emotion, every word a plea wrapped in challenge. The air crackled, charged with unsaid words as if everything the dark, hidden truths teetered on the edge of revelation. Just as Maria opened her mouth to ask what happened next, a sound shattered the moment like glass, a siren wailed in the distance. Panic surged in the crowd, eyes darting toward the sound as a black police vehicle rounded the corner. What now? Someone whispered. Maria's stomach dropped. This wasn't just about secrets anymore. It was about consequences. The crowd scattered, caught in the wave of fear and curiosity, fragments of conversations intertwining like currents in a river. Stay where you are, shouted a figure, a uniform breaking through the thrumming tension. A chill swept over the scene as all heads turned towards the approaching officers. Ben went pale, a ghostly shadow plastered across his face. They can't be here for me, he stammered, a hint of desperation creeping into his tone. The question lingered in the air. What were the officers looking for? Was this the fallout from the truths that had begun to unravel? As the police marched closer, Maria felt a rush of adrenaline flood her veins. This was no longer just a story about her and the Thompsons, the very fabric of their lives was about to rip apart. Maria! Shouted Lily, her voice barely breaking through the growing chaos. What do we do now? In that moment, with uncertainty swirling all around, Maria knew she had to make a choice. Would she run, or stand and face whatever storm was coming? The question hung heavily, every heartbeat echoing the urgency of the moment, as the officers advanced on them, their intent unreadable and ominous, and there was her next step could change everything. Would she find the courage to confront the unknown? Or would she fall into the shadows, letting the truth drown beneath the weight of fear? The siren's wail cut through the air, sending a tremor of anticipation racing down Maria's spine. She could feel the fear ripple like a wave through the crowd, an electric current charged with uncertainty. Stay calm. One of the officers commanded, the sharpness of his voice slicing through the chaos like a knife. We're just here to ask a few questions. But Maria could see it in Ben's eyes. He was a man backed into a corner. The way he stood, frozen and pale, revealed a world of guilt lurking beneath his polished exterior. He was a man whose secrets had finally come to call. Amelia moved closer to him, a protective instinct flaring up. What do they want with you? She whispered urgently, but her voice trembled. The fear pooling in her eyes mirrored that of the crowd, a haunting reflection of vulnerability. Just let me handle this, Ben stammered, his bravado fading with every tick of the clock. Handling it is what got us here in the first place. Maria couldn't help herself. The words escaped before she could question the wisdom of speaking out. With the truth suspended in the air, she felt powerful again, channeling the energy of the crowd, the spirit of rebellion that had sparked this uproar. The officers approached, their serious expressions underscoring the gravity of the situation. One of them, a tall man with a hardened jaw, stepped forward and scanned the faces gathered before him, settling on Maria last, those piercing eyes assessing her as if searching for a weakness. Who's in charge here? His demand resonated through the crowd, causing murmurs and uneasy shifts among the onlookers. No one stepped forward. They were all too busy wrestling with their own uncertainties and dilemmas. The question hung ominously, a black cloud threatening a downpour. I can speak, Maria finally said, pride swelling in her chest, even as apprehension gnawed at her insides. She stepped forward, ripping herself away from the comforting shadows of the onlookers. "I want to know why you're here." The officer raised an eyebrow. "And you are?" "I'm Maria. I work with the Thompsons." The confession tasted bitter but necessary. It was time to lay all cards on the table. "Maria?" The officer repeated, a flicker of recognition dancing in his eyes. "You were present at the incident last year, weren't you?" "The theft?" Maria's heart raced. The theft. It was a dark cloud that loomed over the Thompsons, casting shadows on all their lives. "What do you know about it?" The officer pressed on, zeroing in like a hawk eyeing its prey. "I know it was never resolved," Maria said, her voice steadying, remembering the anger that had boiled beneath the surface too long. "I know everyone involved was too scared to speak up." Around her, murmurs of agreement cascaded through the crowd once more, this time louder, firmer. The silence of fear was beginning to shatter. The officer's demeanor shifted slightly, weight adjusting as he sensed the tides turning. "All we need is clarity about the situation," he stated, his voice softer, as if he were trying to coax them into cooperating. "Clarity?" Ben echoed, shaking his head. "You think that will just happen? You don't know what's really at stake here. Maybe it's time we all found out what's at stake." Maria stepped even closer, drawing strength from the gathering support. "What are we afraid of? A few lies? A little truth? It's time for all skeletons to come out." Ben's face hardened, but there was recognition there now too, as if he were wrestling with the truth she had forced out into the open, even if it was just a crack. "Let them come for us," Maria said defiantly, suddenly propelled by the energy in the air. "Let us face it together. We deserve to know the truth." The officer shifted back slightly, a slip of doubt flickering across his face. The gathered crowd was like a storm, rumbling as a united front, and that made the uncertain mix of tension and anticipation even heavier. "What do you know?" the officer asked, challenging her to reveal the truth, but Maria felt the last wall of hesitation crumbling away, then a voice from deep within. The crowd shouted, "We're done hiding." At that, the ground shifted beneath them. The truth was no longer a desperate whisper but a rallying cry. Everyone felt it, a seismic shift. But before Maria could muster her next words, a voice rang out behind her, chilling the very air. "That's a dangerous game to play." Maria turned slowly, heart pounding, dread pooling in her stomach as she recognized who had spoken. The air crackled with tension, as if a new understanding was about to surface, one that could change everything. What had she stumbled into? And was she ready for the answer that waited, lurking just beyond the veil? The unknown voice hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating in its ominous weight. Maria turned, her eyes locking onto a figure emerging from the shadows of the crowd. It was Victor Lear, the wealthy owner of the Thompsons' estate. His presence alone sent ripples of unease among the assembled faces. He was a man of authority, clad in tailored luxury, but right now, he looked anything but composed. "Victor, what are you doing here?" Ben's voice wavered, the bravado draining from him. The crowd murmured, uncertainty swirling like dust in a storm. "Didn't you all get the memo?" Victor's cold smile didn't reach his eyes. "This is not a picnic, people. You're meddling in affairs you don't understand." Maria clenched her fists, defiance bubbling beneath her skin. "It's because we want to understand that we're here. We deserve answers." He took a step forward, a predator circling its prey, and Maria could almost feel the heat radiating from his anger. "You think you know what's best for everyone?" Victor's tone shifted, sharp as glass. "This will end badly for you, trust me." A smattering of gasps rippled through the crowd, fear clung to their limbs like heavy chains. But Maria could see it the way they were all edging closer together, emboldened by their numbers. The truth was the only ally they had left, and they weren't about to abandon it now. "Listen, Victor," Amelia stepped up beside Maria, her eyes steely. "If you know something about the incident, you need to come clean. Or we will. There's nowhere to hide anymore." Victor raised an eyebrow, curiosity flickering momentarily across his face. You think you can take me down? I've weathered storms far worse than this. Then you should know that storms can turn and swallow anyone, Maria replied, her voice strong. She felt the pulse of the crowd behind her, a heartbeat of rebellion that pressed against her once frozen resolve. Such theatrics, Victor scoffed. You're playing with fire. Then let it burn, Ben muttered under his breath, his expression faltering but ready. The mood in the crowd began to shift, a realization settling in the longer they remained silent, the longer they were complicit in their own oppression. Suddenly, Victor's gaze darted toward a figure lurking at the far edge of the space. He straightened, tension rippling through his body. Have a little heart, will you? He called out, his voice rising above the din. A chill curled through Maria's gut as she turned to follow his gaze. Standing just outside the circle of light, a tall man dressed in dark clothing loomed, his face obscured by a hood. The crowd hushed, all eyes on the figure whose mere presence seemed to suck the air out of the room. I'd advise everyone to clear out, the man spoke, voice low and gravelly. You don't want to get caught in the fallout of this. What are you threatening us with? Maria shouted, projecting her voice, stealing her resolve. For a moment, the man was still, regarding her as if weighing her very soul. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm here to deliver a message, he replied, stepping into the light, revealing a twisted smile. But you are all in over your heads. Fear crackled in the air like electricity. Maria felt the crowd hesitating, uncertainty creeping back in. She took a deep breath, the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. Enough of this. She yelled, the assertiveness returning to her voice. If you have something to say, say it now. We're not leaving until we get the truth. A tense silence enveloped them, and then the figure shrugged, glancing at Victor. You can't keep this locked away forever. If you push too hard, things will unravel in ways you never saw coming. Victor's eyes darkened, a storm brewing in their depths. You have no idea what you're talking about, he spat, but Maria could see cracks forming in his facade. Uncertainty hung like a heavy cloud, moments ticking by as the tension mounted. What wheels had been set in motion? What deeper truths lay buried beneath layers of deception, waiting to be dragged into the light? Maria's heart raced as a daunting thought crossed her mind. Had they opened Pandora's box? And if they had, would they be able to handle what spilled out? In that charged silence, with stakes mounting higher than ever, a question loomed larger than any of them. Would they have the courage to face whatever truths awaited them, or would fear subvert their growing strength? With each heartbeat echoing like thunder, she resolved to find out. The fight for truth was only just beginning. The tension in the air thickened, as if the very shadows had come to life, pulsating with the collective anxiety of the crowd. Maria's heart hammered in her chest, matching the rising pulse of furious determination. She could feel the weight of every gaze upon her, 100 souls whispering silently, begging for answers. Enough of your games, Victor. She shouted, her voice echoing into the night. If this is about protecting something, spill it now or we'll drag it out of you ourselves. Victor's lips curled into a sneer, but his eyes betrayed him. They darted sideways, searching for an escape or perhaps a sign of backup. Every moment he hesitated felt like an eternity, charging the air with dread and anticipation. The crowd shifted, as if instinctively drawn closer to the epicenter of confrontation. Courage is admirable, but reckless, the man in the hood replied, his voice low and menacing. She thinks she knows what will emerge from the darkness, but not every truth needs to see the light. What do you know? Amelia shot back, her patience wearing thin. We've already lost too much to fear. A heavy silence fell once more, only to be sliced apart by an unusual noise, a distant humming, almost like a warning siren. Maria's heart sank as the sound came closer, filling the air with a sense of impending doom. She turned quickly, scanning the horizon. What was approaching? Then it happened. A surge of panic rippled through the crowd, people instinctively stepping back as a black van pulled up nearby, tires screeching against the gravel. The side door swung open and two more figures emerged, clad in dark clothing, faces hidden behind sunglasses and baseball caps. Victor's demeanor shifted, the mask of composure cracking as fear flickered across his features. "It seems your brave little gathering is about to be cut short," he said, his tone now laced with a nervous edge. "What's your play, Victor?" Maria pressed, taking a bold step forward. "Are these your thugs? Trying to intimidate us?" "We won't back down. They're here to ensure nothing goes wrong," he managed, but the tremor in his voice underlined the truth: he wasn't as in control as he wanted them to believe. It was a thinly veiled threat, and Maria could see the panic in the eyes of those around her. The crowd buzzed with confusion, whispers floated through the air. Did they flee? Stand their ground? Ben's face was a mask of apprehension, his eyes darting nervously from the van to the man in the hood, who seemed unfazed. "Let them come," the shadowed figure finally spoke, lifting his chin defiantly. "What's hidden will be uncovered. And if you don't wish to face the consequences of your silence, perhaps it's time to remove the veil between truth and deception." Maria felt the weight of his words sink deep, as if they were nails being driven into the wood of her resolve. They had stepped too far into the abyss. She could almost sense the cold breath of revelation on her neck. Would they really dare to push back against such powerful foes? "Everyone don't move. Stay together," Maria shouted, trying to rally the crowd closer. Courage pumped through her veins like fire. This was not a time to retreat. As the hooded strangers approached with slow, deliberate steps, Victor stepped between them and the throng of would-be truth-seekers. The fight was boiling over, and she could feel the air crackling with fear and anticipation. Would it shatter or ignite? And then, without warning, the tension snapped like a thin strand of thread. Victor lunged toward the nearest figure, fingers outstretched, anger erupting like a volcano. But it was too late. The moment had arrived when silence collided with chaos. Each sudden movement sent a ripple through the crowd, uncertainty blooming into panic. "What have we done?" Maria whispered, the sense of dread looming larger than life. The truth was about to be unveiled, and in this moment, everything was about to change. As the first cries erupted, Maria realized they were standing on the brink of an explosive fallout. What lay ahead would be beyond anything they could have ever imagined. Would they find the answers they sought or be consumed by the very darkness they aimed to expose? Only time would tell. The chaos erupted like a storm. Victor's desperate lunge was a spark in the powder keg, and the crowd transformed from a sea of anxious onlookers into a mass of terrified bodies scrambling for safety. People pushed and shoved, some falling as panic took hold. Shrieks filled the air, twisting the tension into a cacophony. Maria staggered back, eyes wide with disbelief. The hooded man remained still, an island of calm amidst the insanity. With a swift motion, he raised an arm. A glint of metal flashed in the dim light. Was that a weapon? "No!" Maria cried, her voice clawing at the air. She shot forward, heart racing, desperate to intervene. "Stop! This isn't how it ends." But her words were drowned out by the frenzy. One of the newcomers from the van stepped in front of the hooded figure, tall and muscular, his expression hidden behind dark sunglasses. He blocked Victor, who was now reeling from his reckless attack, hands raised in confusion. "Everyone back!" The newcomer barked, voice like thunder. The tone was sharp, authoritative, and it sliced through the panic. But the crowd didn't listen, the pulse of chaos still surging wildly. "Get out of here!" Ben yelled, pulling at Maria's arm, dragging her away from the impending confrontation. She fought against him. "We can't leave. We need to know what he wants." But before they could move, the hooded figure spoke again. "Fear not, for the truth will surface." He gestured toward Victor, his voice a chilling mix of confidence and menace. "Your recklessness has summoned what you sought to avoid." A sharp crack echoed through the night, then another. The crowd gasped as they realized it was not just noise, it was the unmistakable sound of broadening violence. One of the dark figures had fired a shot into the sky, a warning shot that seemed to make everything freeze for a brief moment. "Run!" Maria screamed at the top of her lungs, adrenaline surging. She pushed through the throng, her heart pounding, searching for Ben. The currents of fear carried her, people tumbling against her, chaos folding in like a dark blanket. But Ben had already been swept away by the crowd's flow. He was lost in the mass, and her hands trembled as she fought to hold on to her own gravity in an ocean of fear. "What do you want?" Victor roared, gathering himself as he stood defiantly, anger replacing his earlier panic. "What are you after?" From his lair of shadows, the hooded figure took a step closer to Victor, voice dripping with cold certainty. "Everything has a cost, Victor. You've hoarded your secrets long enough. This is the reckoning." Maria felt a jolt. The air hung heavy with threat, and whatever had been brewing beneath the surface began to feel tangible. She didn't know who these men were, but their intentions felt darker than the shadows they hid in. Flashes of light erupted around her, the strobe of emergency lights cutting through the darkness. Sirens were coming closer, but they felt miles away. Is this the end, then? She wondered, thoughts racing like fire. Would they be swallowed whole by this night? Or would they emerge from this chaos stronger? She ducked beside a parked car, vision scanning the crowd desperately for Ben or anyone who could make sense of the madness. Instead, she caught sight of Victor again, face twisted in rage, yet underneath it lay a flicker of fear what was coming for him. And then, silence. A new kind of quiet that sent shivers along Maria's arms. Suddenly, the tension felt unbearably thick, like they were waiting for a dam to burst. The van's doors swung open again, and a woman stepped out, her presence changing everything. Clad in black, she was powerful, moving with a purpose that commanded attention. What did she know? Maria held her breath. Something pivotal was about to happen. All attention shifted toward this new player in their game. What secrets did she hold? The woman stepped forward, her eyes scanning the chaotic scene with an intensity that silenced the crowd. Her long, dark coat fluttered slightly in the wind, and with every step, there was a subtle authority that made people take notice. She wasn't here just to observe, she had a mission. "Step aside," she commanded, raising her hand, the solidity of her voice cutting through the remaining panic. The taller figure from the van, the one who had blocked Victor, hesitated, then slowly backed down, as if her presence changed the rules of the game. "Who the hell are you?" Victor yelled, a mixture of confusion and defiance coloring his words. "Someone with a vested interest in you," she replied, her tone deceptively calm. "You've dug a hole too deep, Victor." Maria fought her way through the remnants of panic, heart racing. She felt a connection to this woman, the way she carried herself, the fierce determination in her eyes. Could she help? As Maria pushed forward, she finally spotted Ben, his face pale but focused as he tried to find a path back through the throng. Relief surged through her, but it quickly turned to dread as she remembered the hooded man's words. "Your recklessness has summoned what you sought to avoid." What had Victor done? The woman's gaze shifted to the hooded figure. "You think this is all about Victor? You overestimate your power, Shadow," she said sharply. "Others are at play here, and they want to be controlled." The hooded man smirked, unfazed. "Then let us see how far your bravado takes you." In that moment, the tension exploded again as the crowd erupted into movement. A second shot rang out, this one aimed at the ground, and the stampede returned. People were screaming, racing to escape. "Maria! Ben! Come on!" A voice broke through the chaos, and they turned. They couldn't stay in this mess. The woman moved with purpose again. "Follow me," she shouted, beckoning Maria and Ben to join her. The way she spoke suggested they were all part of something larger, something that could tip the balance. Victor lingered, still staring at the hooded figure. "You can't just let this happen," he shouted, but his voice was drowned amidst the retreating crowd. The urgency of survival overpowered everything else. Trust me, the woman said, her steely resolve shining through. As they began moving, the weight of the night hung heavily. Danger was looming, and they were in the eye of the storm. They ducked into an alley, the sounds of chaos muffled but still echoing in the distance. What do you know? Maria pressed, feeling the need to understand what they were entangled in now. You're right to seek answers, but first, you need to stay alive, she replied, glancing back down the alley. Victor has made enemies, and trust me, they don't back down easily. Just then, footsteps approached, heavy and deliberate, resonating through the darkness. Fear twisted in Maria's chest as they turned to face the looming threat. Get ready, the woman whispered. The shadows were shifting again, and they felt the night closing in like a noose. Maria's heart thudded like a drum in her ears. Who was coming after them? And as the streetlights flickered, one thing became clear: secrets buried deep were breaking free, and they were right in the middle of it all. What would it cost them to uncover the truth? The night was a twisted dance of fear and revelation. The alley felt close, the weight of secrets pressing like an anchor on their hearts. Maria stood shoulder to shoulder with Ben and the mysterious woman. Each footstep from the shadows was a reminder that they were losing ground, yet the need for clarity burned within them. Who are you? Maria asked the woman, determination lacing her voice. Why are you so interested in Victor? The woman met her gaze, energy crackling in the air between them. Names don't matter much when you're faced with the truth. But I will say this, the Thompsons' fortune is built on more than just good investments. Secrets, lies, and ruthless dealings, these are layers you've yet to peel back. Maria's stomach twisted at those words. What does that even mean? His empire doesn't just reflect the world he created, it conceals dangers too, dangers that reach far beyond this estate. The urgency was palpable. They want their secrets back, and Victor has something they won't let go of easily. The footsteps advanced, a rhythm that echoed terror in the alley. Maria felt Ben's hand clench on her arm, the warmth of his grip comforting, yet the anxiety radiating from him caused her heart to race. We can't die here, he whispered, panic tightening his voice. Then we fight, Maria replied, surprising herself. She didn't want to feel powerless. She didn't want to recede into the background as a cleaning lady anymore. She had stepped into the light and was determined to stand her ground. A dark figure appeared at the alley entrance, the shade tall and menacing. There you are, he hissed, eyes scanning the trio like prey. The woman stepped forward. You need to leave now, this doesn't concern you. I'm afraid it concerns you, sweetheart, he sneered, gesturing behind him. Victor sent us. Chaos threatened to consume them again, but Maria felt resolve sweep through her. If it's the truth you want, let us have it, she shouted, voice bold and full of fury. Speak for yourself, Maria, Ben murmured, filled with doubt. Why should we cower? She challenged with fire in her belly. We've faced enough darkness already. The shadowed man took a step closer. Bravery doesn't equal wisdom, girl. You don't see the storm brewing, it will drown you. Maria shot a look at Ben and the woman beside her. We can't let fear dictate our next move. If we go down, let us go down fighting, she declared, rallying her newfound strength. You're brave, the woman admitted, pride blooming in her eyes. But we'll need more than that. Follow my lead. As they strategized, the shadows felt alive with threat. Gunfire rang out again in the distance, and the cold grip of fear surged anew. Go! The woman shouted suddenly, urgency exploding from her lips as she broke from their huddle. The chase had begun in earnest, with swift movements, they darted deeper into the labyrinth of alleyways, Maria's heart pounding not only with fear but adrenaline. The woman shouted instructions, directing them through a maze that twisted through forgotten streets. Ben's breath was a ragged melody beside her, his determination matching her own as they fled. In their flight, the truth began to crystallize in Maria's mind. There was more resting on her shoulders than she ever realized. She wasn't just a cleaning lady. She had leapt into the fire. She had become a symbol of courage. Finally, they reached a narrow street lit faintly by flickering bulbs. "This way," the woman urged, pushing into a door clouded with shadows. As they stepped inside, an abandoned warehouse loomed around them, remnants of a forgotten time encasing them. Maria turned, eyes scanning the darkness for their pursuers but noticing only the crisp silence hanging in the stale air. "Now what?" Ben asked, panting, stress etching lines into his face. "Now we fight back," the woman replied, her voice unwavering. "This is your moment to take control, Maria. You've shown strength already more than you ever knew." Maria's heart swelled. "What do I need to do?" "Expose the lies, spark a movement. But first, you must learn who all the players are." "In this game," said the woman, determination brewing in her gaze. "Tap into the network of those wronged by Victor. Find the truth that leads you to power. Only then can this spiral of darkness end." Maria clenched her fists, the spark of mission igniting a fire deep within her. She glanced at Ben, who was nodding in agreement, hope blooming in his chest. "I won't go quietly into shadows anymore," she vowed, setting her eyes fiercely on her future. "I will be a force of change." In that moment, amidst the fear, chaos, and uncertainty, secrecy gave way to clarity. Even though the path ahead was fraught with danger, Maria felt a sense of purpose. She was ready to seek the truth and bring light to tales buried deep in darkness. Now was the time to rise and reclaim their lives. As the dust settled, each breath filled with resolve, Maria motioned to the woman. "I'm in," she said, conviction rolling off her tongue like thunder. And in that warehouse of shadows, they began to carve their way through a revolution born not just of anger, but of hope, for Maria had become more than just a cleaning lady. She was a warrior ready to reclaim the truth. Sparks of resilience danced in the air, igniting the onset of a new chapter. This was a path toward uncovering the truths hidden beneath the surface, a bridge toward a future that could rewrite the narrative forever. The light of dawn was closing in, now is the time to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now, and feed the algorithm with your support. Flood that comment section with your reactions and theories about this unexpected finale, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how crucial your support is right now.